Hello everybody and welcome back to the Divinity walkthrough.
But I am in your debt, and I would be remiss not to honor your request. Shield your eyes, Source Hunter. To melt ice of this refinement, I'll need to summon an equally rare flame.
Gods, it's colder than a witch's teat. How very callous of Leandra to entower her only sister in a barren tundra for eternity.
Ikara, you're all right? The ice, King Boreas, and your sister. What a frigid hell you've endured.
And yet not even a frigid hell like this could induce you to put on a shirt, could it, Ahu? My old friend, surely I have you to thank for my salvation.
That honor goes to a pair of talented source hunters, actually. If not for their efforts, I'd be quite uselessly prowling around your prison still.
Then perhaps I ought to address my savior directly. Source Hunter, is that the masquerade? Well, what a motley crew we are. Isn't there somewhere a bit warmer we might discuss matters? Ah, yes, of course, of course. Do pardon me. I didn't mean to imply you were very clearly eternal beings in the guise of minor mortals. Not at all. Please, let's do carry on. Oh, yes, I suppose I am. But I do prefer my given name. Ikara, that is. Charmed. But I hope I haven't disappointed my own hero. Am I just as white and witchy as you'd hoped? First things first, Source Hunter. For my freedom, I owe you every imaginable thanks. My soul had withered in this prison, and I might not have survived much longer without your help. Now, about the culprits. My corrupted sister and the mad Winter King. When I realized exactly where, and to whom Leandra was consigning me, I was certain I'd never enjoy the sun's warmth again. But neither she nor I anticipated the Source Hunter. That was her mistake, and my blessing. I never would have imagined Leandra capable of dealing with the likes of Boreas, but she has changed into someone I hardly recognize anymore. I take no pleasure in the memory of that night. The thought of hurting anyone or anything is abhorrent to me. But in this case, I judged it necessary. If you've come this far, I trust you've learned that the Counselor was far from a humble civil servant. This doesn't excuse my behavior, but perhaps it can help to explain it. It's a sordid story, to be perfectly frank. Two sisters, a philanderous, treacherous wizard, death and mayhem. Are you sure you're interested in such things? The sparkle in your eye belies your better nature, Source Hunter. Now I know that it is your duty to get to the heart of this. And, in truth, the events of that night were but one part of a larger and much darker matter. A matter in which I'll dare to beg your assistance before we're through with one another. Now that terrible night. One night, as I slept, I had a sudden revelation. No dream, but a vision. My sister Leandra and my lover Zandalor. I didn't understand, but I recognized their location. Syceel's King Crab Inn. I arrived and looked through their window, but inside, everything was wrong. Leandra had fled, and Counselor Jake stood over the wizard, a knife in his hand and hate in his eyes. As I watched, he drove the dagger deep into Zandalor's heart, and I was too late to stop him. In that moment, I broke. I saw before me not a man, not even a beast, but evil incarnate. And I used Source to slay him. On the floor lay Zandalor. In my hands, I held Jake's life force. I had sworn never to use Source, but I couldn't walk away. And so I did the unthinkable. I used the Counselor's life to save Zandalor's. He was alive, but only just. Betrayal. Murder. Source. We were all of us guilty now. If you were any other Source Hunter, I suppose you'd strike me down where I stand after that terrible admission. Fortunately for us both, you are no other Source Hunter. My own little sister, if you can imagine it. She was always the more ambitious, the more exacting of us, and she had no fear of the darkness that so often accompanies Source. Her collusion with King Boreas in imprisoning me here confirms my worst fears. She is planning something far greater than I could have anticipated. For this reason, and with a heavy heart, I must ask you, Source Hunter, to find out how far exactly Leandra has become entwined in the dark arts. I hate to extend my own invitation, Source Hunter, but I believe I ought to accompany you to Zigzax's hideout. Presumptuous, yes, but I'd recognize the imp's essence just about anywhere. Both he and you must learn more about the darkness that has extended itself into our dearest Rivellon. And I believe I know where we must begin. Ah, but unless that's a bear flailing through the threads of time, I do believe Master Zigzax is on his way. Make way, Source Hunter, landing in 3, 2...
Hunters, you've done it! Ikara is free! Ah, what good it does my impish heart to see her safe and bright as ever! We have much to discuss. Come one and all to the end of time. A spot of something warm and the soft glow of the tapestry ought to do us all a bit of good, hmm? There you are, Ikara. Now, if we're done playing hide and seek, let's not waste a jot more time. Oh, I just can't wait to pick your every synapse.
After you, Master Zigzax.
So that's the White Witch, eh? I expected someone a little more evil. I can't say I'd cut her down from a stake, but she sure has fewer horns than I expected.
We've solved the murder and caught the culprit, yet this case feels anything but closed. The witch killed the Counselor. Murder is murder, and that's all there is to it. Fortunately, the witch is now in our custody. We'll have to deem where and when to mete out justice.
Okay, so after all of those events there, we get a dialogue between the two main characters, which is a pragmatic versus romantic option, and I chose incorrectly right there. So let's reload here, and we will try again. Yeah, so obviously Ikara explains exactly what happened at the King Crab Inn, which, I mean, to be honest, maybe she just fills in some of the blanks, I should say. We have had a general idea, even after just talking with Counselor Jake there, as to what actually happened.
We've solved the murder and caught the culprit. There's more to this crime than simple fact. Killing a killer is hardly the same as killing an innocent, after all.
There we go.
We'll have to learn more before we can assess Ikara's true guilt in this matter. Fortunately, she seems quite eager to tell us more about this entire dark affair.
Okay. Yeah, so Ikara definitely doesn't have anything to hide. She tells us exactly what happened and kind of what's going on, but I think for the most part that is it for Hyberheim. We have accomplished almost every single thing there is to do here already. There was, though, the one Bloodstone that I've mentioned a couple of times now. that I missed in the prison, so at some point I will go back and grab that. We'll see if it's possibly right now. I don't know why else I would walk all the way back this way for if I wasn't going to grab that, but we'll see. You never know. I thought in the last video I had ventured this way to do that, but turns out I didn't, so we'll give that a shot. Sure looking like that's the case, though. You've even got teleporter pyramids flying around. Yeah, so and then, you know, I don't know, to be honest, I probably should have just disarmed those traps one of the other times I was here, but sometimes I just don't. To be honest, I think I just didn't really carry enough disarm kits throughout this entire playthrough, and that's been kind of the case with every single playthrough I've done. I've always, I don't know, just been too cheap or something.
Oh, what a fine specimen you are! How luxurious your contours! How lush your bearing and your beauty! Come to me, enter me slowly! Don't say that wretched word! A maiden I am, and a maiden I must remain. How terribly am I cursed! Cursed to crave the fires of desire, but forever unable to feel the lick of its flames, the thrust of its blaze. How many times have red-blooded men been invited to penetrate me, dragged into my embrace, kicking and screaming? But it is not I who is ecstatically pierced. It is them. I do not draw from them that which is meant to give life, no, their life's blood instead. I am the thousand-robed celibate, the virgin of steel chastised with chastity everlasting. I do not know. The first time a helpless victim was forced into my many-thorned frame, and he wet me utterly with his blood, I suddenly sprung to life. Boreas says it is because of this stone my head is carved from, a stone from the stars. Its sanguine tastes animate my spirit and my lust.
Alright, so the Iron Maiden there has all kinds of lovely innuendo. But we are going to destroy it and collect the bloodstone here within.
Now this is valuable.
There we go. This is valuable. Alright, so at some point here, hopefully, yep, looks like we're going to head to the end of the time. And I've collected a couple of blood/star stones since visiting here last. So we should be able to open up at least something here.
Do you have a moment, my friends, to indulge an old imp? I want you to know that I have been giving your history a lot of thought, for any historian worth his salt duly contemplates the events he records and researches. It is my solemn conclusion that you have been treated rather harshly, and that the harshest punishment of all was delivered unto you by your very own hands. For tell me true, what are humans worth, even if they ascend to the status of demigod, if they be void of all doubt, if they question unfailingly their duty? The demon abused a most primal emotion, and because of that, that emotion has been dubbed a weakness. Nay, I say, it is not. Indeed, it will save us yet, be it in the very last nick of time. So, chipper up, eh? Not like the near impending end of all is entirely your fault.
Think I could fly straight to the void? All the way up!
At least Zigzag seems to think we Guardians aren't utter failures. Bless his heart, for he is right. Doubt is not a blight, but a blessing. I couldn't agree more. In fact, I'd go so far as to say we didn't fail at all. That may have been the god's conclusion, but it isn't mine.
Alright, so yet another conversation resulting in a trait point. That looks like that was independent versus obedient. Obviously, I'm going with independent on both. And, alright, so we have
beautiful one at that.
unlocked the chapel.
I have a feeling it has long since been abandoned by the gods, then.
O guardians in whose hands rests the fate of all, I know he, the usurper, the instigator, has been trying to charm you. Charm you like he once did us both before. Do not listen to him. Do not listen. For every sound he makes is another vocalization of deceit. And what is more, a ruse to mark his weakness. First he seems to mock you. Then he seems to menace you. Then he seems to mesmerize you. But all the while, what he really does is fear you. His desire has been long in the making. The freedom among the void that is his unfathomable dream. But I have stopped him once, and you can do so again. You have pieced yourselves back together, guardians. You are greater now, perhaps, than you ever were. The maw of the void is chomping with big black teeth. But there is still time to kill the beast. Rise up, guardians. Stand up. Come to me at the center of the maelstrom and stand by me.
No, our enemies fear us. And well they should. We'll hit the void in the jaw yet and put a halt to its ceaseless devouring of creation.
Alright, so there Astarte shows up once again to tell us that the Trife is bad news and not to trust him. So it probably is already obvious that we shouldn't be listening to anything he says. But anyways, there's I believe 2 treasure chests in this area off to the side here. And I'm not sure if I ended up getting anything good, but Tormented Soul. I guess the Tormented Soul would be okay if I was a melee weapon using champion, or I guess even bow using champion, I suppose.
This tomb must enshrine a most honored soul. Still,
By the sins of the 7, can it be? You, Guardian, and General before that. Has time erased all memory of me? It is I, Alessa, the General who stood by your side when the Void Dragon first plagued our world so very long ago. 3 of us faced our foe that day. Only 2 lived to tell the tale. You stared the Void straight in the eye and saw oblivion reflected back at you. You broke, panicked, and it took me the very depths of my magic to rally you once more. Rally you I did, but I was spent, and the dragon did not hesitate. Thus I perished in the jaws of the void.
then let me beg your forgiveness for our breakdown, which cost you your life. Indeed, we're sorry we failed you, Alessa. Praise be that you restored our courage.
There is nothing to be sorry about, Guardian. I did what had to be done, and after...
True enough. Every war takes its toll, but in victory, that toll is justified.
Spoken like a general should. I did what had to be done, and so did you. You did your duty and more. You gave up the rank of general to become something greater, something immortal. Guardian, protector of the God Box, protector of all creation. Oh, how terrible it must have been to be betrayed. To hear Astarte whisper, to falter ever so briefly and see the dragon rise anew.
Yes, we were betrayed, and how? The Trife, Astarte, they were plotting against us. No wonder our resolve failed. Even the best can be brought low by trickery. It was treason that undid us, nothing else.
Yes, indeed. Treachery and deception. Such are the forces that stood against you. The gods should have seen it coming. You undertook a task the Seven themselves should have presumed. And where are they now, these allegedly all-powerful gods? Cowering in a distant universe, no doubt. But you are here, ready to face your fear yet again. Destined, I am sure, to succeed at long last. To succeed and save time and space forever. Your moment is nigh. The moment of final failure or final triumph. I know what shall be. Your time has come. The void is destruction. You are creation. The greater force that will best a lesser foe.
Our past. Another in a long line of the void's wretched victims. Come what may, we'll avenge them all.
You're home. How long it's been? Centuries? Eons? Since you come to me in search of salvation. But I have not changed nearly so thoroughly as you have. My offerings remain the same, dear protector. As have my prices.
Okay, so, here in the chapel is where the spirit of General Alessa resides, and she does a little bit more explaining that, so it wasn't just the two champions that were, or two source hunters, whatever, that dealt with the void the first time. Alessa was there as well. It sounds like those two kind of failed, or they had a momentary lapse, but Alessa was able to shake them free, and unfortunately it cost her life. But yeah, not much else I would say to talk about with Alessa. Here is the altar of offerings, I guess is what it's called, and then here I'm just selling all this stuff because to be honest, I didn't expect I would be using any of this, and I just wanted to get it out of my inventory. I was getting, or I had just picked up just too many things at this point where yeah, I was just unhappy with the amount of time that I had to use just scrolling through my inventory there to find stuff.
During the Great War, you found full resistance to the elements quite useful. Perhaps history will repeat itself.
But anyways, so the altar here does have all kinds of potions, so if that's something that you want to pick up, go ahead. Otherwise, I always feel like, you know, actually just tricking out your gear and adding resistances to your gear is a better option, as, you know, potions are only a limited time, but I guess technically, I guess your gear is potentially a limited time only as well if you decide to upgrade, but for me, I guess I just went through the game a little bit of a different way. Obviously leveled up using the Meridino's lab kind of glitch kind of deal, and kind of found some good equipment that was level 20, and I expected that to take me to the end of the game, and for the most part that was true. And then I, you know, just upgraded my gear that I had, and I didn't have to worry about constantly replacing it then. So but yeah, that's the, I guess, one of the advantages to spending way more time than was probably meant in Miradino's lab. And, I mean, to be honest, kind of farming gear as well, just by visiting, merchants constantly throughout the game, so. Alright, at a certain point here, the chapel might be the last room that we really open up here in this homestead. It's looking like that's the case, because I'm not seeing zigzags run around anymore. So that one might be the last unlock that we...
Good to see you on the shelter plane. A home away from home, is it not?
I wonder how much of a spark it takes to zap a human to vapor.
I hope your quest fares well, dear hunter. Yes, that was a small fib on my part, I'm afraid. Zandalore is known as the Keeper of the Source, after all. And I didn't know how Source hunters would react to my association with such a colorful character.
Why, I see Master Zigzags has upgraded from his shabby little hut at the edge of the hour, from the fairy dimension to the, space-time weaver hunter imp one. What do you call this place again? Ha! Is that so? It seems I have my share to learn about the magical world yet. The end of time. Well, suddenly your association with Master Zigzags makes sense. Well, I must say, it's no small relief to find myself in a safe haven among such allies. I believe the answer to that begins centuries ago, when your order was still cutting down so-called dark magicians by the dozens. Ours was a family of born sorcerers, you see. It was in our blood to interact with Source. But our parents were determined to curb the power within us. Still, their meekness wouldn't save them from the Source Hunters. I am, but there is more to our kind than they teach at your academy. Source isn't only blood and madness. It's like lightning, an exquisite current of great power. We sorcerers are like metal steeples. Source is drawn to us and it flows through us. But what so many fail to understand is that Source can be controlled. The power drunk through history have abused it, and all the world's sorcerers have borne terrible consequences. Tell me, Source Hunter, in all your hours studying the arcane arts, did your great masters ever suggest that perhaps not all sorcerers were evil? Did you ever hear, even once, that some of us were weak and gentle, that we could be simple forest folk healing the sick and frozen each winter? No. I doubt also that they'd mention that one day this hunt of yours would birth a broken soul powerful enough to inch all of Rivellon toward oblivion. No. No, that would be going too far, and eschewing my own responsibility. I believe Leandra's long fall down did begin at the hands of some of your own order, but it was I who sparked all of this. They came on a quiet morning. My mother was wild with fright and commanded me to hide myself and Leandra outside, among the trees. Even at that young age, we knew not to question her. We climbed high into the branches of a nearby tree, and before we could look away, our parents were cut down without ceremony before our door. The Source Hunters sauntered away, wiping their blades with pride. 2 more sorcerers dead, a job well done. From that moment on, everything was different. As we trembled in that tree, our fear and our desperation were so potent that the magic within us began to weave together. Our souls became forged together, our bond unbreakable. We would survive, thrive even, within those woods, never speaking to outsiders. Our soul forge meant that if one of us were to die, the other would instantly perish too. We kept one another close. Leandra's capacity was enormous. Source didn't frighten her, and she delved into that dark well with terrible regularity. I did my best to guide her, but she fast outgrew my admonitions. My sister and I were mired in a solitary existence, witches among the trees when Zandalore came. Leandra especially couldn't leave him be. He was a feast of information, and she wouldn't rest until she'd absorbed every bit of knowledge he offered. Their days were spent on charms, hexes, and the like. At night, Leandra would wander off to practice what she'd learned, and Zandalore and I would settle into our quiet tasks, side by side. We were a content trio, the three of us, but base impulse would undo us. As you know, Leandra and I were soul-forged. This offered us a window into one another's souls. I knew Leandra had developed feelings for Zandalore, and she knew I had too. But it was me to whom he confessed his love. Those quiet evenings together had captured his heart, as they had mine. Her heart broke the moment we announced our new attachment, and I felt the pain of it as sharply as a knife. She fled, without a word, and I didn't see her for 2 terrible years. My connection to her, our soul forge, grew weaker. It was as though some third entity, a parasite, were atop our souls, sucking the strength from it day by day. We've a single order of business first and foremost. Leandra is gathering an army, and I fear we'll have to get through it if we wish to find her. But first, we must learn more about Leandra's plans. How many of these so-called Immaculates does she have in her palm, and to what end is she directing them? Why, it seems you're more than caught up, aren't you? You've already got the spell and the blood, both of which we'll need, if the spell is to be believed, to slice through Leandra's army of Death Knights. Remarkable. That means we've only to find Zandalore now. Long ago, when Source was banished, a league of great men and women promised to protect its secrets. The Keepers of the Source, they called themselves. Our wizard is its last living member. That night in the King Crab Inn, Leandra was after something that only he knew. Find him, and you'll learn where to find her. He lives in Hunter's Edge, a village east of Lucula. When last I saw him, he was in a panic about Leandra's betrayal. It's possible that he'll have flown Hunter's Edge. You may need to investigate to find a hint of his whereabouts. Take this ring, it will mark you as my ally. If you should find Zandalore, he'll know I sent you. I believe that our soul forge has been damaged. By what? I can only guess. The fraying of the bond between us has left Leandra adrift in a well of sorrow she truly believes will never end. What she needs is a hand. My hand, out of this abyss. If our soul forge is repaired, I am certain she'll cease blazing this path of destruction. I cannot condone the terrible things she's done, but I can seek to understand them. With our soul forge in such tatters, I believe Leandra is adrift in the not at all inconsiderable sorrows of our lives. What's more, I sense a terrible force bearing down upon the bond between us. It is hungry, and it consumes ever more of Leandra's mind and soul. I cannot say exactly what this force might be, but I'm certain it's both driving me out and driving Leandra on. If I could only repair the forge, I'm certain she'd put a stop to this madness. Gods, Death Knights, this is dreadful news. Worse than I could have expected. Death Knights are a terrible sign, Source Hunter. Historically, they indicate their maker's intention to wage total war. Death Knights are impervious to attack, you see. The perfect soldiers. Fortunately, you're 2 steps ahead of my sister. That spell you've crafted will render her army utterly vulnerable. She'll not be able to hide behind Tenebrium and dark magic for long. You're 2 steps ahead of my sister, Source Hunter. That spell you've crafted will render her army utterly vulnerable. She'll not be able to hide behind Tenebrium and dark magic for long. So that's her plan. She intends to summon Astarte and the Void Dragon and overwhelm the goddess with an unstoppable army. With Astarte gone, there will be nothing to stop the Void from consuming all of Rivellon. Our mission is greater than us, greater than Leandra, Source Hunter. It is a quest to save all of existence from eternal blackness. Her plan must not succeed. Sister, what have you done?
Alright, that's all the time I've got, so as always, hope the guide was helpful, and hope you join me for more videos.
You
Thanks
and
for watching.
Zandalor have always been close, are you?